Okay, we've started recording, and today we're going to, for those of you that are logging in now, just to let you know, today we're going to have some information from Ryan Savage, and I won't say much more than that other than that, Ryan, you have the floor.
Okay.
Well, and welcome everybody. Hello, and thanks for being here.
Hello, everybody.
In our early December meeting, we had various discussions which bounced around. And at the end of that, basically I suggested that we try to get some focus on it. And this presentation is the result of trying to get focus on that. I've been working with Brian a little bit on this also to get some ideas going. So what I've put together is really to get the discussion going and to have us direct our attention into specific areas. So it's not meant to be an answer, but I've tried to put some things out there like a dartboard that we can throw at. So don't feel like you can't say you don't like something or whatever. It's just trying to give a direction so that we have more focus on our activities going forward. So we're talking about the Gasly, Colorado Park Trails area. Basically, the objective, I believe, from the meetings I've been in, I've tried to collect them, is to create and connect a Smithville City Parks with a trail system utilizing the Colorado River and the Gasly Creek areas. For those who don't know where Gasly Creek is, it runs along the side of Royston going into the Colorado, basically behind Brookshires and Zimmerhausel's area. Also to link to the historic and visitor areas of the city and be supportive of the other Smithville Economic Development Committee activities. So that's what I believe the objectives are. Any input on that one? April?
I'm sorry, Ryan, just a second. What kind of input? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you.
Can you repeat your question?
I said, did those objectives seem to target what the objective is of this thread of the EDC?
Yes, okay. I think so. I mean, there's also probably I'd add, you know, for the use and enjoyment by local people that live in the area as well. Jill, is there anything you'd add to that, or anyone on the call, anyone here?
Yeah, April, I think adding, you know, making sure that we're, you know, this is designed to help improve quality of life for the people who live here. That I think would be really helpful to have. But absolutely, this is, I think, along the lines of what we've been talking about with the EDC. And,
I will add that to the objective then. Okay, considerations. When I was putting this together, I thought I'd capture the considerations that we need to have as we're thinking through this. First thing is minimizing the maintenance impact that we have on the cities and parks recreation department. So in other words, we can't add something that costs a lot for the city to have to maintain. They need to be in approval of what we're doing as we go along so they understand what could potentially land in their lap. We need to determine the impact that flooding will have along the Colorado and potentially the Gasly Creek area. This will impact what we build, what we construct, the materials we use, that kind of stuff, and actually the access to it. We need to minimize the impact of parks and trails to nearby landowners. We should the implementation should be accomplished basically mostly by community groups like Boy Scouts, Garden Clubs, Lions Clubs, that kind of stuff. We should focus on small, achievable units of work which work toward the strategic objective. In other words, it can't be done all at once. We need to do bite-sized chunks that we can accomplish and show action to the goals. And we must be ADA compliant. We basically can't do it without being ADA compliant. That's basically a requirement no matter what. I've put some immediate activities to begin with to give us sort of a charging point. First thing is work on the implementation plan for the Old Bridge Park. This is the area that is between Main Street and Olive underneath the Main Street Park. This is where the old bridge came across. Ted and his group have been doing some work there, so we should basically, and I know that Scott has looked at, with the parks people at the area also. So we should focus on that as being probably the initial one. That would get our feet wet, both with the neighbors and along the Colorado, and give us an idea of how to progress other components. We need to determine the property ownership along the Colorado so we understand who we need to deal with as we expand potentially through there. We should gather flood information from the LCRA so we understand at what depths and heights that the river goes to on a annual 10-year, 100-year type flood situation. We should create a long-term strategic plan which incorporates all the little tactical pieces that we have so that we can have a target to work toward. Brian and I have talked about personally going out and surveying Gasly Creek to determine the viability of working along there. It is fairly steep and rugged, so we really need to make sure that it's even doable. And we also need to coordinate with the Smithville Parks and Recreation so that they're aware of what we're looking at, what we're doing, and coordinate with their plans also. Any questions on that page? If not, I'll move forward.
I actually do have a question. Was there an environmental impact study done on the work that's being done at the end of Main Street, that park, so that the property owners aren't impacted?
There has not been an environmental study at all. Ted and his group have just gone out there and cleared some stuff. We need to do all the necessary things to make it progress properly going forward.
Okay.
So the existing parks, I thought it'd be good for everybody to understand where these are and what they are. So there's the Veterans Memorial Park, a splash pad, and the skate park all there. That's right across the street from the Railroad Park and Bark. There's the Kleberg Park area, which is over in the 4th Avenue vicinity. There's the Vernon Richards Park, which is out there on 71. Independence Park, which is at the end of, at the corner of Loop, at the Loop where it turns by Zimmerhalsel's. There's the Main Street Park. There's a Martin Luther King and Youth Ballpark and the Old Bridge Park. In addition, I have highlighted Busher State Park, which is in the vicinity of us, and the boat ramp under the Loop 230 bridge. So I think those are all the significant park areas that we may consider in the connectivity of these trails. I put in a picture, a broad picture showing basically where some of these things are. We can see here the Busher State Park right here, the boat ramps here, and the Vernon Richards Park here. The next slide is a closer up picture, and it shows the remaining parks. Kleberg over here, the Independence Park here, Old Bridge and Main Street Park here. The MLK Park is down in this vicinity. It doesn't show up on this very well. So those are the parks that we're considering connecting. So some of the issues which I have collected so far, obviously the Colorado River having a history of flooding, the Gasly Creek area with its very steep and limited access. The bulkhead around Brookshire's right now is eroding and very trashy. And this basically overlooks Gasly Creek. So we need to understand what that's what the future of that is and how that will impact that vicinity. The property along the Colorado River is basically majority is privately owned other than the old park area. The ADA compliance should be defined by an accessibility consultant so we avoid any potential future lawsuits. And we should probably consider hiring a design/civil engineering firm to produce possible construction plans. Sandra, this is down the path that you were bringing up earlier. So these are the things I think we need to make sure that we have incorporated in the activity so that we get things right from the beginning. Brian has made quite a few of these suggestions so that he's got the experience there so that we start out right and move forward properly. Additional considerations. With the State Highway 95 expanding south with sidewalks, do we incorporate some of that into the plan? Should the bikes and tag paths and bike lanes be considered? Should that be part of the whole process? In other words, if we have a trail, do we make it big enough for bikes? Do we add bike paths on the roads and that kind of stuff? Do we include support for golf carts? I've noticed that there's quite a few golf carts going around town. So do we do some of this offline for the golf carts off of the streets? I think that's probably going to add too much to it, but I wanted to include it. And then again, should we consider rental scooters and bikes and such for the visitors having downtown and locals to use to have access to the trails? These are things that we should either include or not include so that we understand from the beginning what we're trying to support as we go through and build the tactical pieces. Now, just to get things going, I have put together some possible, I'm gonna call it alternatives, and these all actually can hook together. I've color coded them, so I'm gonna show you in a map in a minute. But basically the blue is starting at Boucher, connecting to town via 2 Mile Road and the American Legion Road down to Loop 230 to the end of the bridge. That would connect the Boucher State Park to the boat ramp and to town. The next will be starting at the old bridge park, going west along Colorado to the Gasly Creek and up Gasly Creek, joining the State Highway 95 sidewalk in the vicinity of the 4th Avenue Bridge. And then it's going east to Vernon Richards. The third is starting at Gasly Street and MLK and run over to the MLK youth baseball fields. So the next one is going to actually be a map which shows that. So you can see the blue here coming from Boucher down the 2 Mile Road and the American Legion Road down here, basically ending at the end of the bridge here.
You just
questions? Okay. The red, which is basically running along Royston here and then along the Colorado over to this vicinity to get us across to Vernon Richards. The third was the green coming from approximately here, going over to the MLK Park areas. This was probably be mostly on sidewalks or the side of the road here. And then this yellow here is showing basically some of the sidewalk construction that would potentially lead us down to the primary and middle school and high schools. I'm not sure which side or if it's going to be at both sides we have the sidewalk. I just want to indicate that. So that's the potential that we could do, or an example of what we could consider. The only thing that I actually thought about that could be interesting is if we connected something from MLK over to the Colorado Drive area. That would give us basically a loop through the town. So now I've gone through a lot of information there. I'm hoping we'll have some discussion. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna get out of here and I will take questions and comments in here. I'll be able to move back and forth to slides if people need to reference those. And I can have Jill send this out after the meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Ryan. That was a great presentation. Thank you for all the thought you put into that and, you know, mapping things out, and you and Brian heading out to check things out. I really appreciate that very, very much. You put together a really great presentation. I had something to share as far as sidewalks are concerned. If you don't mind stopping sharing your screen, I can start sharing my screen. Is that okay?
Okay.
Let me see if it'll allow me. Okay, so So you had several of your routes there kind of mirror a lot of some of our sidewalk projects. In particular, I just wanted to mention, we did get a grant for a sidewalk that links, this is the elementary, this is going to be K through 5. This is the school, the elementary, used to be the old junior high. Now it's elementary and all the way through 5th grade. Brown Primary's moved over there now. So sidewalks comes from the school, comes down here on 8th, goes across on Marburger and all the way over to this area here. Now it's a little complicated. We initially were going to stop at the railroad tracks because that's a whole big other rigmarole, and we were going to include these sidewalk tracks here. TxDOT, it is a grant. We do have funding for this length here, including at this time improvements at the railroad tracks. If for whatever reason the railroad track funding it just doesn't work out because it's complicated and it may not work out, then we can still use that funding for these sidewalk areas here. So that kind of hooks into some of the things that you're talking about. We do have a sidewalk network here on 4th. You were talking about doing something on MLK. That's kind of in our sights in the future, but not at this time. We've been as you can see, we've sort of been building sidewalks kind of as we go. This set of sidewalks is already there. This set of sidewalks is in another grant that will be starting. Well, we've got the engineer for it now. So that we should be seeing construction on that, I would think, probably in about 6 to 9 months. And also with this set of sidewalks, that'll be within about 6 to 9 months, we'll get sidewalk construction. This set of sidewalks is already there, and this set of sidewalks is already there. This purple line is already there. So we've got that sidewalk network already really strong just since 2011 or so, that these sidewalks have been in, these sidewalks have been in. This is another set of sidewalk, this is another project. So this length from basically the library to the end of Main Street here at First, that's a ramp project because the sidewalks there are decent enough, and most of them are right up against the historic building, and that's another pile of money. Sam just shaking her head, she knows how that works. Whenever you do anything right next to something historic, you have a whole lot of other issues with it, and the sidewalks aren't so bad there that we need to do anything about them. We just we have horrible ramps. We have to make sure that our ramps work. And then there's funding for sidewalks that goes up First Street, and that's on one side of the street. And if I remember correctly, it's on the side of I want to say the Bark Park. I'm not positive about that though, but it is only one side of the street. This section here will be both sides of the street. This section here will be one side of the street. This is what you referred to before about the sidewalks that's going to come down Highway 95. So that comes from Loop 230 across the railroad tracks here, across the railroad tracks here, and all the way down to the high school, junior high campus over here. So that's been, oh my, I have to tell you, the first grant we wrote was in 2010 for that. And we've been sort of working on getting the whole enchilada put together and funded and all of that stuff. And we're finally getting really close. I'm hoping we have sidewalks before my son graduates from high school, which will be in 3 years. So you know, fingers crossed. But TxDOT is controlling that project completely at this time. And so that I don't know exactly when that's coming online, but that's in the works, and that should be within a decent amount of time for us to have that. So that's our sidewalk network. And I think the trails piece that you were talking about, some of that can hook into these sidewalks that we're talking about. We also had, here, I'll stop sharing the screen now. Does anybody have any questions about this? I know it's kind of a lot of color coding and information. And it is on it's a shared, it's a mind map, so I can share this with you in the chat if you want to take a look at it at any time.
I would love to see those two overlaid to see what we're trying to get to see where the things are close.
Right.
If possible.
Sure. Perfect. Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. If maybe you and I can work on that a little bit. But I'll send you this map so that you can take a look at it. I wasn't aware you were thinking about kind of moving towards in town, or I would have shared this with you earlier. But then the other piece you had mentioned, that having a trail that would hook in over here to get over up here is where the Riverbend Park is. And you had a trail that was coming in. I want to say you had it coming in across here and then coming over here. So from these sidewalks here, it would be, you know, we could see I could see working together with you on another project that would kind of connect in here to loop in somehow to get out over to that area too. So we'll have to, you know, we're doing obviously we're doing all of these things in phases. We started, this one was our first one it got built in 2011, and here we are at 2021. So this has been a 10-year long project, just getting sidewalks to connect the community together. So, okay, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I'm going to put in the chat. This is the link to the, wait, let me make sure. Anyway, was there any questions about that? Okay, any other comments from anyone else about what Ryan was sharing?
Well, Jill, I'd say, so my comment would be to get this thing off the ground, we're going to have to start, like Ryan had put together some suggested actions, and I think we need to probably spend some time focusing on those and decide how and who those actions are going to move forward.
That's a good idea. Okay. Ryan, do you want to, can you bring up that screen again if you want to start sharing and put up that that sort of the steps that you had? I know you had a screen that said what you expect for us to be doing.
How did you get me with the share before?
If you
do that, Jill? Put
your mouse down towards the bottom of your screen, and you'll see a bar will come up. So it'll say participants chat. It's on mine, it says it's a green share screen. It says record, reaction, and then leave. So if you scroll your mouse down towards the bottom of the screen.
Ryan, remember you picked more last time, and
right.
it was under more.
Sorry, right.
All I get is participants, invite, chat, and record.
And then was there like a dot that said more on it?
Yes, that's what I'm
sorry. That's what's in there.
That's all I got on it. I thought you had triggered something on your side that gave me the share.
I don't think so. I don't think so. This is, okay, I'm just to see if this works, I'm sharing my screen again, stopping my share. If you want to try it again, see if that triggers yours.
Nope.
Okay. Can you copy that and put it in the chat, and then we can just kind of talk about what those elements are? Would that be possible?
Which one? The considerations?
Considerations is a good one to add in there. I think Brian was talking about the steps, though. We're talking about like the next things that we need to do. Make sure we have who's on board doing what pieces of it.
Issues or additional considerations, maybe?
Sorry, I made it complicated.
And the green screen share button is up again.
At the bottom of the screen, participants chat, and then there's a green share screen button. Do you see that?
Ah, there we go.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Everybody see that now?
Perfect.
Okay. So considerations. That's the wrong one to work on.
Yeah, I think you had, it was the one that talked about, there we go.
This is the one.
Immediate activities, yeah.
I don't want to speak for Jack. I know he's on the line, but I want to say that I'm sure we are all grateful for that under the considerations, the not, you know, making it anything too onerous for the Parks and Rec department. We're very grateful for that being under the consideration. So thank you for that.
So I think what we need to determine very quickly is the strategic plan and the Gasly Creek viability. So if we can put together that, which would incorporate now this information that Jill just presented with the streets, and try to come together. I just threw an idea out there about what's possible. We need to come together and say, this is what we want to do as the strategic plan, which would be a 10-year plan, and then try to figure out a schedule of the tactical steps to implement the strategic plan over the 10 years. In other words, year 1, we would do X, year 2, we do Y, year 3, we do Z, and so forth and so on, so that we'd have a plan. And as things obviously change, and then we adjust to those as different things come up from the EDC or different plans come in from the city. But I think the strategic plan is the key right there, along with the possible use of an engineering firm to look at those plans to see the viability and what we need to do, and also determine the ADA requirements of the various locations. Brian, does that sound? Yeah, you're the man that's in this area more than I am.
Yeah, I mean, that does sound like the right thing. And I don't know if this committee would, I mean, my suggestion is that the strategic plan would be developed by a consultant, unless we think that that's something we can take on ourselves. That would help us kind of map everything out and help us fill in all the gaps. Obviously, I mean, I know y'all worked on stuff like that apart from trails, so you probably have experience in doing that. But that would be my suggestion. I really think that's the first step in us getting all this off the ground. So then,
so are we, Brian? I'm sorry, this is April Daniels. Are we saying that separate and apart from the strategic plan that we've created, the economic development strategic plan that includes a step-by-step guide under the parks and trails portion of that plan?
Not necessarily separate. No, I would think it's just taking it to another level of detail. And I apologize, I haven't looked at that since a month or two ago, so I forgot how detailed it is. And if the steps in there are adequate, then it may just be something that we can do, where we take on certain steps and come up with our own plan of how to start implementing them. Yeah, and I apologize. I should have looked at that right before here. So I was,
no, that's okay.
Right.
I am.
Yeah, so not necessarily. I'd want to say it just depends on how much detail is there. But one of the things I want to emphasize that I really like what Ryan put in here is, and I think it's in this one, maybe it's in the considerations one, but to identify, focus on small achievable units of work. And one of the reasons I think it's so important is, well, a couple reasons. One is we don't want to get started and spend time and effort and money in a certain area and then realize we have no chance of ever completing what's next to it for whatever reason. And then we just got some landlocked piece of trail that we spent time and money on. The other reason, though, is depending on how well we strategize it, getting good chunks of the work done first builds momentum. And so people around the community that may hear about this and feel like, oh, I'm not that excited about it, or property owners that they would have to participate in it to make it happen, that also would not be excited about it. When they start seeing something going on, it's possible that more people will get on board and it builds momentum for the project. But we want to be careful not to do that haphazardly, like I said, in a way that potentially gets landlocked, or even worse, potentially goes in a way that then turns off people that we hope to get on board with the project. So I really like that, and I think that's kind of where I think this strategic plan takes us next, is from whatever is in the overall strategic plan, get us to a point where we can identify chunks of work that we can figure out the funding for, figure out the scope for, figure out who if consultants are needed, and if so, what kind, and come up with a plan for each of those parts. Comments?
Sorry. what are the other people that are on this call? What are your thoughts on creating, based on these recommendations that have been brought today, and working towards creating a trail system over the next several years? What are your thoughts on that? This is just one suggestion. What are you all's thoughts on this?
Well, April, on the city side of it, I mean, obviously, the more we can work in public domain, then that's going to be easier to achieve maybe some short-term goals. I think when we start talking about connecting all these on the private property, obviously that's going to take a lot longer to achieve. So anything that we could work on where there's already parks available or close to where parks are, then I think that would be our goal, to try to start something like we said, like Ryan was saying, is we could meet some of them short goals, but obviously some of these longer goals are going to be 5-10 years out.
And that's a great point. And I think to Ryan and Brian's, both of your point, figuring out the things that we can do short term that are already on publicly owned land. Maybe that's kind of when we're talking about having a step-by-step, here's what we're going to do, then we're going to do this, etc. I think Jack has a great point from the city's point of view. Let's start with what we already have and have access to, and then build out from there in small term, in projects that we can do one at a time. Or is that kind of what you're recommending, Ryan and Brian?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Jack's point is, yeah, that would be a suggestion for the kind of that low hanging fruit to get something going and probably because it's on public land, it's probably also relatively publicly visible. So those would definitely be a strong consideration for what would be those first pieces of work. Yeah, and most of y'all probably already know, but like the plan to take a trail from basically to connect to bridges crosses a considerable number of different privately owned properties. I mean, it's pretty much all privately owned. So yeah, it's a big and long undertaking to try to have that kind of vision. But so
sure.
So Brian, I just wanted to let you know also, as far as sort of historically, we've got a number of comprehensive plans. The one that I have, the map hanging in my office, was from 2007. And rather than trying to, that was a consultant came in, LCRA came in and helped us with that comprehensive plan. And what they're doing on that is, there's only 3 property owners on the other side of Colorado River. So what they had recommended that we would do is, instead of trying to cut across all those property owners that are on the town side of the Colorado River, to work it out so that there'd be a trail on the other side. At the time, American Legion was the major property owner at that place, and I think they still are. And at the time, they were interested in potentially talking with us if we could talk to the other property owners. I don't know where we stand on that. I'm not sure. I think that Jack, maybe I think that the new, oh my gosh, forgive me, was the Herda Estates, I think is a new, that property has changed hands now, and so that may be a possibility. Yeah. So there may still just be only one property owner that needs to discuss it if we'd want to go that direction. Yeah. So that's another thing to think about. Jack, did you want to step in?
Yeah, Jill. Just let you know, it used to be just 1 or 2 property owners on the north side of the river, but now there's probably 15 or 20. Okay. Because all them lots that Herda divided, that's all different owners now. So there's just as much on the north side now, if not more, than on the south side. So okay, right. Either side we go, we're going through numerous property owners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess really the only difference between the north and south at this point is the north side is mostly still undeveloped, isn't it?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing I just wanted to mention, Brian, you had said, you know, hiring a consultant for making a strategic plan, which is always a great idea, because bringing somebody outside in, we've done that on a number of things. I can tell you that we're seeking funds right now to do a comprehensive plan. We do not have that in our budget to have consultants for a lot of these kinds of projects. But we also have quite a lot of, you know, we've done a lot of planning in conjunction with consultants, just on our own. So there's pieces of making this comprehensive, this parks and trails plan that we can start on our own. And I think part of it would be, we can do a certain amount of community assessment, right? Like trying to get a needs assessment from the community, find out what kinds of things, given that we have these, you know, like Jack and April have been saying, we have these parks that are available to us right now. And so, you know, trying to do something with what we have, what kinds of things would, and in fact, we've just been working on a Healthy Parks initiative through the St. Davis Foundation gave us a really sizable grant to do some things at MLK Park. So I don't know if you've seen down there, but now we have a brand new playscape, and we've got fitness equipment for people over 13 to use. And so, I mean, we've got a lot of stuff going on to try to improve the parks that we have. And so trying to do something where we're reaching back out to the community to also to let them know about what exists, and then what kinds of things, you know, Jack, I think, has some ideas for example, at Kyleburg Park, we've been trying to get some funding up there to have a playscape and shade and do some other things to make that more community friendly as well. We just haven't hit the right jackpot yet for the funding. Yeah. So, but yeah.
It sounds like, and I'm sorry, because again, I'm kind of new and still learning, but it sounds like, in addition, maybe even for needs assessment, one of the things we could do is just do some data collection in the sense of identify all the different plans and all the different efforts that have been performed that would be in one way or another associated with this trails project, and pull them all together in one place so that the whole committee can have access to it. And that way we can, you know, several of us could look through all those documents and pull together the relevant information that's already been worked on, and basically see what we got to work with, and then decide, you know, well, where are the gaps and where are the holes that need to be filled. And like you're saying, it may prove to not be that much, and something that we can, you know, definitely just take on ourselves and fill those gaps. And I don't know, I'm not trying to task you with something, Jill, but is that, you know, I'm sure you're the most knowledgeable of everything that we have access to.
Well, I'm going to share with you a link to our comprehensive plan. I'm just looking for it. We have oh my gosh, where did it go? It's on our website. We have the comprehensive plan information is development plans. Here we go. Sorry. I'm just not remembering what it's called. So I'm going to share this link with you. It's not just parks plans. It's our comprehensive plan, which includes and a number of other things. Our Safe Routes to School plans. So there's a lot of you can find a lot of that here. I'll talk with Jack and see if there's anything else that he's got just through the Parks Department that might not be listed on this website. I know that Andis Goebel, the previous Parks Director, did some kind of a community plan. I want to say maybe it was about 7 years ago, Jack, if you remember. I'm not sure if we could find that now. I'd have to, between you and Ashley, we'd have to figure it out.
Yeah, we'd just have to sit down and see if we could find it. So yeah, it was probably 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, so that's one I think if I remember correctly that Andis had done something like that several years ago. So we'll just have to see what we can find and try to get that out to y'all as well.
That'd be great. And if you also that 2007 LCRA plan, if you could.
That's on that website. That's on the website that is in the chat right now. So that's in there. And certainly if you'd rather, you know, that I get you a paper copy on the relevant parts or send you the relevant parts, that's fine too. Okay, and like April was saying, there's some amount of, in our strategic resiliency plan that's on the SEDC that we just went through, there are some steps that are I guess I'd call it sort of generic. If you wanted to review that and just see, there's some things that she was recommending that we do, but a lot of that to my sensibilities was that it was sort of like a pre-planning, like these are the kinds of things that you need to know before you can actually sit down and say, here's what we're going to do in this site, right? And so, you know, and yeah, and go ahead.
Oh, I thought
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just sort of a side suggestion is I'm a civil engineer, and so work some of my colleagues work on these types of projects. I have pretty easy access to some of these trails plans that have been done for other cities, not by us, but just by like planning consultants. And so I can dig around and try to find some go-bys too, and that may be helpful for us as well to look over those and help us figure out what are our next steps and what are the good gaps that we need to fill.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much. I don't know if you noticed, Michelle Rutherford asked, how will Riverbend Park be connected to town? Bike trail using 2 Mile Road? That's what she's hearing. She's asking if that's what's being proposed.
No, because 2 Mile Road would not, that's going to connect Busher to town, not Vernon Richards Independence Park.
So
yeah, it seems like the only way to get town connected is to, I mean, either put a trail along one side of the river or the other, or use the sidewalk network and then have that connectivity over by 71 to get Vernon Richards connected to town. I think that those would be the options.
Yeah,
I have a question.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Michelle. So I don't know what the name of that road is. I guess I thought it was 2 Mile Road, but it's on this side of 71. If there were some path that could be made, you know, when you're at Riverbend Park and you get there by going under the bridge.
Right.
If there was some way to make a path that went along the eastbound side of 71 that connected to that road that goes, I guess it's the VFW, not VFW.
Oh, are you talking about American Legion Road? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Well, does everybody see the map?
Yes.
Yep.
So American Legion Road is right here, and then 2 Mile goes across over here. 2 miles on this side.
So I was thinking of American Legion when I said 2 Mile Road, so I misspoke. But if there would be some way that TxDOT or somehow we could make a path that was on the eastbound side of 71, there's a road that connects, that goes under April, or
I didn't know that road that goes in front of the American Legion was also 2 Mile Road. I think that this map is not correct.
Well, it's not 2 Mile Road. It's American Legion Road up to
on this
71.
side, and on the other side is 2 Mile Road. Yeah, that's American Legion Road. Yeah.
So if there were some way to connect or to make a path that would be safe for people to bike, or even wide enough for golf carts, that could connect Riverbend Park to town.
So that little road.
Are you saying?
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
That little road that goes underneath the bridge there to get across to Highway 71 going the other direction. Is that where you're talking about, Michelle?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't even know that has a name or anything. It just goes underneath Highway 71. But then how do you connect? Because that just loops up onto Highway 71. I don't know how you would connect it. You mean like go down the highway to American Legion Road?
Yes. Like having a path that runs parallel to it, but is not on the highway, but off, somehow protected by, I don't know, like a cement median or something that would connect that park to town. And that seems like you wouldn't be dealing with any private property there.
I don't know. Jack, who is that inside the city limits? I guess it is, right? But it's
Excuse me, where was that at? Tell me again.
Along Highway 71, between the underpass where you come out of Riverbend Park and you have to go under the bridge so you can go the other way on 71. Between that and American Legion Road along Highway 71, that's in the city limits, right?
Yes, the right-of-way itself is inside city limits.
Is in city limits, right? So what Michelle is asking is, as far as ownership goes, is part of that, is it all owned by the state? Is it somewhere that maybe we could propose to put something where people could connect from American Legion Road to that underpass area?
The whole easement is TxDOT, is Highway Department.
So that answers like your question.
And yeah, and that seems like that might be easier to coordinate with TxDOT than multiple different homeowners for some kind of safe biking and golf cart path to connect connect that park to town.
I don't know. I know there's some issue with, you know, people getting that close to the highway, but I don't know. We'd have to, I don't know. Jill, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can, you know, I can always bring it up as an idea to, you know, I'm working with TxDOT pretty closely. And, well, Jack and I both are working with them on these sidewalk projects, and we can just bring it up and ask. With the funding that's available, working with TxDOT is definitely a possibility. I don't know. It seems like, you know, they're very squirrely about getting anything close to fast moving cars. So I'm not really sure that's a lot of real estate to go by. But the other, you know, you see where he's got the red line that's coming down that goes across the river.
Yeah.
Now, that I think may have more problems, first of all, because it's a little more.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the other ones, but I agree. Yeah. So.
I think Jack's on another call or another conversation.
So we don't have to.
So, but I've done this myself, like gone across the highway, you know, on the what do you call it?
Yeah, about 2 weeks.
The shoulder, you know, right across on that bridge over there.
I'm sorry, there's another conversation going on. I can't hear what you're saying. If someone else has got another conversation going on, can you put yourself on mute?
Okay. So, all right. So the upshot is, we're talking to TxDOT a lot. So probably we can talk with them about what they would recommend that we do. I think that would be the best solution to that, is to say, you know, we really want to connect to Riverbend Park so that people can walk and bike there. And what is your best solution? I have a feeling that the red section, that section that goes across the river, that might be a better, because it's a much shorter path to get from the town side over to Riverbend Park, rather than that's a lot of miles to go, especially if you're talking about families with little kids. I mean, it's just a long way to go to be able to.
Or even the other direction, instead of going along 71 from that underpass to American Legion Road, maybe going up to Colorado on that eastbound side. That's a much shorter. Right, exactly. And that's I think that's what Brian has in red. Mm-hmm. I think I can talk to TxDOT about that and see, I mean, I can see what they would say about it and then get back with you. Okay. And I'm not thinking of like having just people walking along the side of 71, but more like a path that runs parallel that is protected somehow with like cement pylons or. Sure, or like a pedestrian bridge or something. I mean, yeah. I'll talk with them. I'll see what they would recommend. They're not going to do something that is not safe. Right, so, right. You know,
then the question is going to be how many millions of dollars does that cost?
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see.
Okay. Thank you.
But I will get back with you for sure.
And Jill, if I could just throw in, like, I think this is a good example of where if we can connect the dots of where, or really identify, and Ryan's kind of already done this, identify all the key points that ideally we would want people to be able to get to by on foot or on a bike. And then each of those may have a couple different options. Like, just like here through you and Michelle and some of the rest of us, we've come up with, I think, at least 3 options to get people from town to Vernon Richards. And so then we can kind of, vet each of those options and look at the costs and the obstacles and the safety of each one, and try to, come up with a plan for what makes the most sense.
That's a great
I vote for a gondola. I want a gondola.
That's not a bad idea either, Michelle. We'll have to, I'll bring that up too.
Is there a grant for that?
It would definitely make us a destination anyway, right?
How do you get across to your park? I gondola people for a living.
I found in these kind of plans that when you list more and more outrageous options, then when you finally come back to the ones that are viable, they feel a lot better.
That's right. That makes sense.
Shoot for the sky and then, come back down to earth.
So we need to, the other thing probably we need to start thinking about is looking at grant options for this planning, which I know is music to Jill's ears. So we'll do some research there and be prepared to talk about that at the next meeting. Okay. And I am also very open to, I would love to nominate Ryan and Brian to co-chair this committee. I think they're absolutely would be perfect for that. What are your thoughts on that? Not to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, did everybody hear that? Fantastic. Jill, write that down. I'm recording this also. So what I'd like to do is Jill and I will start looking at funding opportunities. We had a great, you'll recall that we had a presentation from Julia with the county about a potential funding source for a plan. So we're going to start exploring that and talking about that. And let's get together with our chairs between now and the next meeting to kind of go over some of that before we have our next meeting. Okay. Yes.
Sounds good.
That sounds great.
Okay. All right. I think unless there's something else on your list, Jill, I think that's the end of our meeting.
That was all I had. Was anybody else on the call wanted to bring up anything for our next meeting? We have 5 minutes before we turn into pumpkins.
5 minutes. And if you have not been down to the end of Main Street, go down there because they're pouring concrete right now for our new visitor center / museum / chamber. And I'm very excited to run down there right now and take a look.
The gazebo park side.
Yeah.
The gazebo
exactly.
park end.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Bye.